Good evening. I'm Socrates Garrett, and we're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi, the heart of the Deep South, right here in the African American owned broadcasting studio. WeBelieveDigital.com, our own platform. And so it's critically important that in the African American community we control the narrative. I look forward to receiving opportunities to show and advertise your products for goods and services and to move your brand along in this community. We're broadcasting live on Facebook. On We Believe Digital Podcast, go to Roku and download our app, and We Believe Global, with shows like this to bring articulate, intelligent conversations and dialogue to our platform. So I'm here to continue sounding the alarm. This is how the South is going to rise again. Good evening, and welcome to another edition of Socrates Garrett Live, brought to you by WeBelieveDigital.com, our very own platform located right here in Jackson, Mississippi. That's right, Jackson, Mississippi, in the heart of the deep, deep South, in the poorest state in the nation, where African Americans have the worst history of how they were treated during the periods of slavery and beyond. Mississippi is still burning. But we here at We Believe Digital believe we have something to offer. We have solutions. We chronicle the problems and chronicle the history, but then we move beyond our history into our future here on We Believe Digital. Now that's hard to do because many of us believe that there is no such thing as history in Mississippi, that what we are currently experiencing is an ongoing tradition that has never gone away. It changed its look from the plantation to the boardrooms, to the legislature, to the lawmakers, but the state of Black America in Mississippi has not changed. The opportunities are very, very limited and very, very few for our citizens, and we're going to talk about that. Well, we're broadcasting live right here in Jackson, Mississippi on our very own platform, WeBelieveDigital.com. You can call in and join our show tonight at 800-492-5186. That's 800-492-5186. You can reach us on Facebook at We Believe Digital Podcast. That's on Facebook. On YouTube, you find us at We Believe Digital. On Roku TV, we're right there with Netflix and Showtimes and all of the other big boys. Our app sits right there next to them on Roku TV. We Believe Digital Global. We Believe Global on Roku TV. For advertising, call us at 800-492-5186, option 1. You don't have to remember but one number. Call in at 800-492-5186. Advertise with us. Call 800-492-5186, option 1. Go to WeBelieveDigital.com and hit the chat button and talk to us. Tell us what's on your mind. We'll get right back to you. You can also advertise with us right there and look at all of the different shows that are running all week and all month and all year long on We Believe Digital. It's truly a difference maker. We are young, we are aggressive, and we are bringing the kinds of shows and information that our community needs to hear. Check us out on WeBelieveDigital.com. Go to our government page. When you go to our government page on our platform, it will list all of the elected officials in the entire state. You can find your people there if you're trying to get in touch with a representative in your area. Go to We Believe Digital and you can get that information. If you wanted to see the city council meeting in Jackson for the last 2 meetings, go to We Believe Digital on the government tab and you can watch the council meetings. You don't have to be tied down to somebody else's timeline. Watch it tonight at 11 o'clock when you relax at home. It'll be there forever. And we're going to chronicle that, and We Believe Digital is bringing you that kind of information. We're growing. The analytics show that we're being watched in more than 25 states. We know that we're broadcasting live in over 139 countries. But we're penetrating the marketplace, in a new marketplace. It's a global market out there. And so we believe digital is after that particular market, the international market. And why is that important? Because if you're African American and in Mississippi, you know that there is no market for you. You're in an environment where you may have gained some political clout, but economically you're losing grounds. That's an oxymoron. Martin Luther King died so that we'd have an opportunity to have a better quality of life, that we would have the economics. He said it does a man no good to be able to go into any restaurant that he wants to go into if he can't afford the price of a hamburger. Those are his words. And we are experiencing that today. The restaurant is open, but we can't afford the hamburger. So blacks in Mississippi dare not even go in. You know, in Jackson, Mississippi, the capital of Mississippi, we can't find a black-owned restaurant in the entire city that is a white cloth, upscale restaurant that our people will be proud to take their family and friends to. And I know slight on, we have some historical restaurants. We have some vintage restaurants that represent everything that's about Mississippi. That's Bully's Restaurant there on Livingston Road. Give a shout out to them over there. They've been there forever, doing a great job. And the Lee family, doing a great job with the restaurant there in terms of the smokes and the sandwiches that they provide. And they come off of Ferry Street in the very beginning. So we got some outstanding people trying to do some outstanding things with no help. And so we believe digital are going to penetrate the global market, the international market, and we're appealing to you now to advertise with us. Call 800-492-5186. We need your support. Now tonight, as always, I have my co-host with me, Dr. Eldridge Henderson, a man that needs no introduction, that is just ready to go. And we're going to talk about some critically important things. But because this is Black History Month, I want us to take a look back at Black history. And I want to talk about that a little bit and talk about some of the ills that we find ourselves in and how it got created. So, Dr. Henderson, I'm going to ask you to take us back a bit and tell me what the Black experience has been like in Mississippi and America from as far back as you can recollect.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Socrates. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you, when you start talking about Black history, I'd like to start back probably about 25 centuries. The history of Black people in America is nothing but a representation of what used to happen in Africa. Even though the people changed, the cultures changed, but Black people, Mr. Socrates, used to be the main makers in economics, religion, anthropology, science, everything for at least 6 centuries. It didn't happen until around the 13th, 14th, 15th century that things started changing, when the Europeans got involved in those areas in Africa and bought, bartered, and did everything they could to get Black people out of those areas so they can put them in the Caribbean colonies and eventually to what we call America, and brought those folks here as slaves. They took all their identities away, the names, the culture, religion, politics, put them all together and blend them into a new person, which was not considered then as a human being, but the books show they were considered property, chattel, someone that belonged to another person. And then they trained those people so they would have a distinct identity, one that was totally different from their ancestors. And the good part about that, according to the history books, that was good for America, because the Black people that were considered human beings, personally, they were considered property and non-entities in America. They were not citizens. They were considered outcasts. They were considered a non-person in America, starting with the Declaration of Independence, included in the Constitution, and then thereafter, in most of the legislation, at least 99% of it, they have always been excluded to the point where if anything, just anything of any good was provided for the people in America, the blacks didn't get it. In all the systems and the institutions in America, they were always discriminated. What is the date, by the way? February what?
18th.
18th or 17th or whatever. From then, before slavery, up to today, black folks have been stigmatized, criticized, denied, and being told as of today, you are a non-entity. We're not going to allow you to vote with peace. You're not going to get any kind of economic activity with peace. And if we give you something, we're going to give you enough to fail, but we're not going to give enough of you all enough to fail. One or two.
Well,
that's the short history.
Dr. Henderson, we're going to deal with that a bit. To our engineer, I cannot see your time, so I don't know when our segment is ending. So, but you know, that was our history then. It doesn't seem like much has changed from what we're experiencing now.
No, it's worse than that. It has gotten worse.
We're living a continual history. Not we don't have history. It's an ongoing saga.
That's right. We are allowing it to get worse economically, educationally, religiously, and in all aspects of human development in America. Black folks are worse off today than they were 40 years ago, economically, socially, religiously, and politically.
Now,
don't be confused.
Are you talking about blacks in Mississippi, or are you talking about blacks all
over the world? Because blacks do not control their destiny in various areas of activity, especially religion, politics, economic development, leadership, and in any significant area, especially leadership, even though there are thousands in leadership positions in the church, you don't hear from them. In politics, you hear from them, but they can't get anything done because they're always in the minority. And then when those black politicians that are not in the minority, they work with those that are in the majority so their constituents can maintain their status at the bottom of the barrel economically, socially, and politically. Just because a black is in office doesn't mean anything if they can't deliver. And we have more blacks in Mississippi that's elected and appointed than anywhere almost in the world except Africa, and we are losing ground in those areas that I mentioned.
Well, you know, one author said that after they ended slavery, then there was actually the breeding of slaves that continued on in all across this country, and especially in Mississippi. And then you got this group of people now, these mulattoes, as we call them. You got a group of people now that are really, in many ways of looking at it, they're not an original people, because they're not from Africa, and they certainly are not welcome in America, so they have no DNA that they go back to, no culture, no heritage to fall back upon, and it creates the kind of self-hate that we see in our ethnic race. Do you agree?
I agree 100%, but you shouldn't talk about your black folks like that. You are telling the world that these blacks that were integrated because of the elimination of slavery into what we call the white regime, where they ended up with their sons and daughters, nephews and nieces that were produced by the fathers, the sons, the uncles and cousins. They did this because they couldn't export them from Africa anymore. So the people that were owning and training and developing black folks said that's not going to have any difference. And it makes no difference If we don't get them from Africa, we'll make them ourselves. So you have what I call a new man, a new woman, that was psychologically trained to be different from the average black person that derived from Africa. And they are messed up, I guarantee you. And it's about 20% of them in America. I call them that class that don't even have a status in America. They are searching. They want to be accepted, but they are rejected and used only to make people rich. And then they cast them aside like a dead fly.
We're going to get right back to this conversation, and we're going to talk about history, we're going to talk about the critical race theory, and we're going to talk about a few other things in this show tonight. It's critically important. If they won't allow you to teach black history in the institutions in our schools, where are you going to get it from? You're going to get it from WeBelieveDigital.com, right here in this podcast and things of that nature. We're going to break for a commercial, and we'll be right back after this message.
A diversified firm specializing in recycled aggregates and crushed concrete. Socrates Garrett ENT.com's recycled materials provide the construction industry with significant economic and environmental benefits by recycling clean concrete rubble into M.Dot grade rock materials. Recycled aggregates and crushed concrete can be applied to driveways, road construction, bank protection, parking lots, general bulk fills, and more. By using Socrates Garrett ENT.com's crushed concrete products, anyone from homeowners to general contractors can help reduce landfill concrete waste, conserve natural resources, and gain significant economic savings on materials and disposal costs. For more information, please call 601-896-0084 or visit us online at SocratesGarrettENT.com.
Advertise on WeBelieve.global, a brand new digital media platform. Share your brand with our audience on our many global live stream TV broadcasts and over the radio. For more info, visit WeBelieve.global or call 800-492-5186, option 1.
We don't intend to be ugly. We just want to talk in real terms about what happened in Mississippi and across this country so that we can get to a solution. We have a problem here that's lingered on and is getting emphatically worse, and we got people scaling walls in Washington, D.C., and we got people talking about taking their country back, and we're going backwards and getting a further divide in our country. And as this country continues to brown, as more non-Europeans are coming into this country, the problem gets really worse, and it gets very frightening for some. It gets frightening for my European brothers who thinks that their quality of life and their way of living is going to be challenged. And you know, we got to teach them, we got to help them embrace this change that's coming so they won't be so fearful of it. Now, I want to take you back for just a moment when slavery finally ended, and many folks say that it has not ended until today. It's just a new form of slave. Go to the prison system in Mississippi and you'll find all of the slaves you want to find that are there for low-level crimes, such as a small amount of marijuana and things of that nature. But they're locked up and they're put in the criminal justice system. So you just got a new slave. You got a black business community out here that has no access to capital, has to beg and borrow and try and come up with any way they can to buy parts for their business. And so you just got a new kind of slave that's begging in a different kind of way for freedom and acceptance and opportunity. Nothing has really changed for the Negro in the last 200 years. Nothing has really changed for him. But so we gotta help our European brothers understand the opportunity that we're missing. And here's what I want to say to them. That after slavery ended and when cotton was no longer king in the South, we know that you fought as hard as you possibly could to keep your way of living and keep your standard of living, and there were more millionaires in Mississippi than there was anywhere else in the world. Mississippi was, in fact, Wall Street. But that's because cotton was king and black folks were the engine of that economy. But when slavery ended and cotton was no longer king, you had something no other state had. you had the highest number of African Americans in the country with a creative class like has not been seen before. Instead of embracing that class, that culture, instead of investing in it, we could have had all of the museums, we could have had all of the music industry. Detroit didn't have to have the music industry. It was born right here in Mississippi. All we had to do was embrace that culture, and we would have been the new Mecca based upon our diversity in the way we treat our people. If we would do that today, if we would get your knee off of folks' neck and increase the opportunities for those that are willing to try and work and did everything right, then you would see Mississippi get up off the bottom. But you gotta embrace that diversity. Dr. Henderson, do you think there'll come a time when we will all live together as a community, one homogeneous community where everybody works together and everybody pulls in the same direction?
Are you talking about in Mississippi, in the South, in America, or the world?
We can take them in stages. I'm talking about Mississippi first.
No.
Mississippi first.
No, will not happen.
Will not happen.
No time soon.
Why can't it happen?
Because the European Americans believe in something for themselves that they don't believe in for black folks and people of color. That is, they believe in affirmative action. If you look at the history books and all the documents, you will find that right after 1619, the European Americans affirmed that this nation was set up for white males only with property. Everyone else and anyone else was what I call a zero in America. Even the white females, and I've been talking about this for years, they say no one but white males that's own property is significant. Everyone else is subservient to us. Even my mother, my child, female daughter, whatever. That's affirmative action. Then they put it in all the national documents, put it in the state documents, that this country is for white European males. Then they used this affirmative action in every law they passed that dealt with mining, with farming, with land, says it is for white males. We are going to get the land. Indians, blacks, Chinese, anyone else in America can't get the land, but they can work with us as our slaves, our tenants, or our whatever you want to call it. That's affirmative action. And then when they start looking into other areas in economic development, they start creating what we call a national bank. And then they said black folks can't get any of that money. Hispanics can't get it. They were practicing affirmative action again. They set up a strong education system in America, Harvard and Yale, Princeton and others. And they excluded the blacks, the Hispanics, and some of the Jews from some of those institutions and say we are affirming that these institutions are for us. And when they got that banking system together, that's what really made America great, because they said the money will be spent on black males and their special interest supporters. And they gave certain families that had businesses, railroad companies and manufacturing units, millions and millions of dollars out of the tax purse.
You are saying they gave it to white males.
That's right,
yeah.
affirmative action to them. And for instance, the railroad, they told the railroad owners, Carnegie and many others, we're going to give you free land 6 miles on each side of your railroad track, wherever you put it. 6 miles. And after a while, they gave them affirmative acts, legislatively, say you can sell this land, you can develop this land, and of course, they developed those lands and sold them, and many times they got it free or for $250, $2.50 an acre, and sold it for $25,000 and $35,000. And those families are still alive today. They are still rich. and the men and women, the Chinese, the blacks, and others, and few Indians that built these railroads that were making nothing but just enough to survive and not die when they using that big hammer, or still homeless, broke, mentally unwell, and begging and hollering and squalling for justice and peace and harmony in what we call an unjust Mississippi, in an unjust America, in an unjust world. And it is because black folks and so-called people of color are allowing this to happen by not organizing, and all most of them do is just criticize the human enemies of mankind and won't use one tactic. Practice affirmative action where you are with what you have, and control 5 areas of activity: education and training, economic development, politics, leadership, and religion.
Let's take religion. Africans, we don't know what the religion was in Africa. I don't know what it was. I don't know if they worship the same God that we do in America, or whether they had a different form of religion. I don't know if they were Muslims or Hindu. I don't know what they were. You know, Christianity, I do believe, is the youngest of all religions.
And the worst.
Well, I don't know why you would say it's the worst. I said it's the youngest because it brought about a new set of principles in the 10 Commandments that seemed to put order in the world and kept society from turning on itself. It seems that it did that, even though society turned on its minorities.
Well, let me tell you, sir, the real thing about the 10 Commandments, the 10 Commandments have 2 purposes. One is for people to learn them and practice them. These so-called fake Christians that you talk about, you can find 2 in 10 that can get together at the spur of the moment and quote those 10 Commandments in order as they are printed. Very few people, therefore, know the 10 Commandments in order, and if you don't know them, you can't practice them. And the good news about it, as far as the European Americans are concerned, that's the way they want it. You don't know it, you practice it, you do anything you want to do, and when we get to the point where you think you're going to have Christian principles, we're going to change it. And that's exactly what they did when the black folks in America got to the point where they say, we're going to get you Christianized, we're going to make you Christians, but you're going to learn the black Christian code. You know, there's a man on your station wrote a book on this, on the Black Bible. You had the Slave Bible. So the Caucasian Americans decided, we're going to keep these Negroes messed up, and we're going to use that affirmative action on them and tell them we are going to affirm that you will be taught by us. We will give you the religion you need. But you got to understand the first commandment is to look at us as supreme. Look at us as superior. Even if we beat you down, crucify you, hang you, do anything, you're supposed to love us because your God in our Bible going to look out for you when you die. Heaven is your home. That's what they were taught. A lot of black folks believe that today. They think they don't have to do nothing but pray and say, I love the Lord. Lord, forgive me. And they think they're going to die and go to heaven. It's going to be just the reverse. Those black folks in America and the world that only believe in prayer and no work, they're going to die all right after they live in hell in Mississippi, in the United States, and the world. Until they die, living in hell, then they're going to die and go to hell.
Since I don't know the principles of the other religions, I assume that they have some basic tentacles. They have the same control over the population as any other religion.
Exactly.
And so religion then is designed to control people, to keep people in certain mindsets.
Of course.
That's all over the universe.
That's all over, and it's set up like that because religion is like dope. We call it opiates your mind, get you messed up. So that's when you
Well,
start.
what would this country be like without religion? Would we all be just animals?
No.
Would we all be out turning on each other, killing everybody breaking into everybody's house, no restrictions for morals and families and things of that nature? What would the world be without it?
It would be probably better. Because when you don't have nothing but disorder by only one segment of the population, is everyone will exert their power, then you will get some respect, and they'll leave you alone. So you have your opportunity economically, socially, religiously, politically, to rule in an area where you're the majority. And that's exactly what the people are doing in the Republican Party today. They are ruling in the area where they're a majority, disenfranchising everyone else and laughing about it. And black folks call themselves Democrats, Republicans, when every one of them ought to be independent or nonpartisan, set up groups, regardless of party, support their own candidates, and vote them in office.
Now, hold your point right there. We're getting ready to go to a commercial break, but to our viewers all over the world, it's critically important that we have these discussions. Now, you can call in at 800-492-5186. Now, you can reach us on our own platform, WeBelieveDigital.com. You can watch this show this evening, or you can watch it later on tonight at your leisure. We're going to a commercial break, and we'll be right back.
S2-E15 is paving the way forward for a safer city government, delivering cutting-edge biosecurity and biosafety protocols developed internationally by top virologists and scientists using an all-natural cleaning solution, killing COVID-19 on contact like no other product on the international market. For more information, please call 1-800-281-9080 or visit us online at SGECOVIDsolutions.com. Let SGECOVIDsolutions.com provide innovative rapid facilities testing and world-class state-of-the-art biorisk safety protocols for all of your coronavirus needs. Call 1-800-281-9080 or visit us online at SGECOVIDsolutions.com.
Do you have something to say? Do you want your voice heard? Join the We Believe Global lineup. Be the star of your own show. For more info, call 800-492-5186, option number 1, or visit online at WeBelieve.global.
We're broadcasting live right here from Jackson, Mississippi, in the deep, deep South. You know, we believe that the South will rise again. We believe that this is God's country. We believe that the air is a little bit cleaner and the grass is a little bit greener in the South. We believe that the quality of life should be as well as the climate. We believe that the South has an opportunity and will play a tremendous role in the uplifting and changing their habits. So if we can get Mississippi to change, if we can get Mississippi to embrace the diversity and to talk about how we as a race of people and a community work together to assist one another, we'll change the whole world. You see, we continue to produce the kinds of leadership like blacks have portrayed all over this country, way back when Tom Bradley became mayor in Los Angeles, California, and Sam Cooke out of Mississippi, and all of the great artists that came out of here. We're producing the talent for the world, but we're exporting it out. So if Mississippi would change, if we could get our deep, deep red state to become less red, to become a color that shows that everybody here is appreciated, then the world will change faster. So we work on Mississippi. We work on Alabama. We work on where we got these large numbers of African Americans that really contribute to the well-being of that state. They're paying taxes and they're holding down jobs and they're making the economy go. And so if we can get them to change, then New York will change, and Los Angeles will change, and America will change. And so our goal is to continue working in that direction. Now, it's not going to be easy, because in Mississippi, because it's poor, we think that any opportunity given to African Americans reduces the size of the pie that the white community is currently sharing. And so we find ourselves in a situation where blacks in Mississippi get less than 2% of contracts for goods and services. in the state of Mississippi, where we're 40% of the population. Less than 2% of contracts for goods and services, and we're 40% of the population. Now, you know, that's unheard of. That's just absolutely insane. Nothing good can happen as long as that is our statistics. But it doesn't change because we had political success and elected African-American officials. Now that we have a county like Hinds that is controlled by all African-Americans, black folk run our city, black folk run our county, black folk run our airport authority, black folk run our school district. All of our economic engines in Hinds County are run by African-Americans, and black folk are constantly losing ground. We are losing ground. We're losing our homes. A tremendous amount of vacant properties in Mississippi, dilapidated properties, where black folk have lost their land and lost their homes because they could not pay the mortgage. And you know, the game that was set up on black folk in the very beginning has got to change. It's got to change. I remember in 1973 when I first came back to Mississippi from serving my term in the U.S. Army, defending this country during the Vietnam War. When I first came back here, you know, I realized then that there was a tremendous game being played on black folk, and that the real criminals were not the ones out on the streets, but it was the one in the pinstripe suits, the one in the legislature, the one that were making the laws. You see, when blacks started to move out into the subdivisions where whites had vacated, for example, when we moved in the Valley North in 1973 to 1975, those homes were built and they cost less than $20,000 to build. A carpenter went out there and built a house for $20,000. Along come black people, and then black people bought the house and they signed up for $1,000 a month house note for 30 years. Now here we have a house that costs $20,000, and the payoff on the house over 30 years is $360,000. Now you got to ask yourself, where did the $320,000 go? That's the difference between the cost to build and the cost that you paid for it in the end. It went to individuals that never picked up a hammer, don't know what a nail looks like. All of this compound interest and all of these late fees and all of these things that are designed to keep poor people poor. In black communities, the price of a hamburger is higher than it is in white communities. Your electrical bills are higher, your water is higher, your streets are worse, so that you have to go to the body shop and get your front end realigned, and you're blowing out tires. And then they create policies that says, okay, you're 2 months behind on your car, but I notice you don't have insurance on it. So we're going to write a policy in law that says you got to have mandatory insurance. Now, blacks who are already behind on their house can't afford the insurance. And so when they stop you and you don't have your insurance, they put you in the criminal justice system. They take your car away from you and they charge you with a fine, and you can't pay the fine. Then they put a warrant out, then you get arrested, and then you go up to be incarcerated. And the system is gaming on black folk all of the time, and it's being perpetuated and carried out by African-American leaders. You see, we're not gaining on our own control and our own leadership. We're losing ground even faster on the black leaderships than we were on the white leadership. So we got a real situation, Dr. Henderson, that I can't exactly understand why black people don't stick together, or why black leadership does not elevate black folk in their own economy.
Well, it's because the European Americans know that there are certain black people that will do whatever they want when they put them in office. The European Americans also know that if black people have any semblance of control, that is only temporary. that we're going to eliminate those folks and take those areas. You mentioned some of the big mayors and some of the big cities. In most of the big cities in America now, throughout the last 30 years, many of them had black mayors. Only a few have them now. And these cities now are being redesigned. And the white people encourage black people to take their old businesses, take their old homes, take their old churches. And I talk about the black preachers all the time. They go and buy these old raggedy white churches all over America, 3 and 4 and 500,000 for them, when they can build a brand new one for 300,000 that'll last at least for 30 years without fixing the foundation, the roof, and the electrical and water system. Just to have a big church that they never use, it falls down, causes more blight in the community, and then you find that these preachers are happy, thinking the Lord has blessed them. Those white preachers sold these churches to them, got the money, went out of the suburbs, and then tell those folks, if more than 2 of you all come to my church, I'm going to kick you out. But you can visit every now and then, but you cannot become a member. That's part of the religion, where we don't organize. So I don't blame the white folks and the Europeans for all the problems black people have. We are to blame for most of our economic problems. Because we have millions of dollars, we won't control that. We have the potential and the talent to do all kinds of things. You mentioned B.B. King and others. Bobby Rush, many of them made millions of dollars, but they didn't own the rights, the copies to their contracts, their songs. They didn't control their marketing. All they did back in those days, I want to be famous, I want to sign a contract to be with a big label so I can be famous. And they had to tour day and night, $200 and $300 a week to pay the band, leave their family. And then when they got famous, they didn't have the contractual rights to their property. All the talent, no money, 30 and 40 and 50 years in the circuit, and they are still broke. The family are still broke. But the man that had the contract, that controlled the advertising, the content and everything else, ended up with the money. And that's why I say we are our worst enemy. Every black rapper in America, every black professional athlete, every black person that's doing anything in the market, in the entertainment industry, or to form coalitions, come up with contracts and compacts, and build their own businesses and control their marketing, production, distribution of their records, and that'll change the economy, and they will have millions of dollars for their relatives for 5 or 6 generations, and then, if you train them properly, they will expand in other areas, in other industries. That's when you get parity. That's when you get respect.
Well, that's not happening.
Not happening.
It's not happening. Black athletes have white producers and managers and that control all of their money, and they get a small allowance over the weekend. They don't even know how much money they got and what bills they're paying, and they end up broke at the end of the term.
Well, that's by design. That's by design, sir.
That's by design, and that continues to happen all over America all of the time. Black folk don't reinvest in their communities. They don't come back to Mississippi. They don't send any money back to Mississippi. They don't worry about the property they got out of here. They gone forever. They think it's over. But where they are now worse off than blacks in Mississippi. So the strategy is not working. No bond is going to solve our problems for us.
Not going to happen. You're
but
right.
Us.
Exactly.
And we can't do it if black leaders that we put in positions to lead are actually maintaining the laws of the oppressor.
That's our fault, sir. You have to do the following to get your own leaders. You first have to recruit them, train them, select them, and give them specific responsibility in leadership, economic development, even when they are 5, 6, 7, 15, 18 years of age. Put them in position of responsibility. Give them the education and training they need in the churches. I've been telling you for 40 years, they're not going to get it in the public schools. Public schools are not going to teach them that they ought to start their own businesses. They're not going to do it in the senior colleges. They're going to say, you need to work for me. And if you come to the conclusion that you need to start your own businesses, the bank's going to tell this young college graduate with a degree in accounting and law and all this kind of thing, you need to go and work for someone else. I can't give you $150,000 to start your medical practice, your legal practice, or your accounting agency.
Even though every Monday morning all of our churches take all of the money out of the black community and go put it in the same white banks.
Every time. And that's a disgrace, is a historical shame. And the people that are doing this continuously ought to be called into a private meeting and say, preachers, deacon boards, trustees of these churches, you are mentally unwell and you need to refocus your funds and put it in areas where the members that are qualified can get it in 30, 60, or 90 days. And I don't want to get into another part right now because we don't have enough time.
Well, we'll continue the conversation after we go to this station break, but the same law applies to all our municipalities. All of the money in the city of Jackson, $350 million flowing through there. How much money is deposited in an African-American-owned bank, like Liberty Bank that we have right here, African-American-owned, a quality product? How much money is over in Hope Credit Union that's owned and operated by black folk? Not hardly any. We're going to go to a station break, and we'll be right back.
New Cannabis Premium Dispensary is providing community health and wellness through CBD and Delta-8. Both CBD and Delta-8 provide an array of health benefits, aiding in appetite, sleep, anxiety, depression, chronic pain, and more. New Cannabis Premium Dispensary provides a variety of CBD and Delta-8 products, including gummies, candies, pre-rolls, pain creams, isolate drops, cartridge pens, and so much more. To learn more about New Cannabis products or to place an order, please call or text 415-465-9292 or visit us online at newcannabis.com and follow us on Instagram at newcannabisjackson.
Advertise on WeBelieve.global, a brand new digital media platform. Share your brand with our audience on our many global live stream TV broadcasts and over the radio. For more info, visit WeBelieve.global or call 800-492-5186, option 1.
We're back. We're broadcasting live from Jackson, Mississippi on WeBelieveDigital.com, our own platform. You can go to that website and look at all of our shows. Our lineup is there for each day of the week. Now, I'm announcing tonight that we're also launching our digital internet radio that will be coming to you next week, where we'll have music that will be played all over the entire country right here out of our own studio. We got the broadcast studio, we got the internet radio that's coming with you real soon, and we have a Mississippi Link newspaper, so we control the print newspaper out of this very, very same environment. So if you got print, you got radio, you got podcast, you got the broadcast studio, black folk, you gotta reach out. You gotta reach out to us and say, I like what you're doing. I understand what you're trying to do. I need to advertise with you. I need my own podcast show. How much is it for an hour show? How much is it for a 30-minute show? Reach out to us. We need your content. We need your involvement. We need your participation. We can make a difference. We can change out our leaders. You know, I always give the analogy that Jackson State's football team was 0-11 almost until Deion Sanders got here, and within 2 years he won the championship. He won the SWAC championship within 2 years. Effective leadership turns the program around. Bad leadership guarantees that you'll never move forward. So all we need is visionary leadership to make this thing work. Now, it saddens me, and I want to give a shout out to Mr. Richards down at Richards Disposal Service down in New Orleans, Louisiana, a young man that was the low bidder for the garbage collection services in Jackson, Mississippi, recommended by the administration and voted down by the council. A council consisting of 4 African-American men, 1 African-American female, and 2 whites. Voted down as a low bidder. This is the second time that happened. The first African-American company, National Waste System, was also voted down by African-American on majority council. I want to give a shout out to the mayor, Chokwe Antar Lumumba, who had the courage to award the contract to an African-American firm on the first go-around, just to have the council overturn his emergency declaration, go into the courts to try to run a coup and take over the government and throw out the executive branch. The courts wouldn't allow it. The mayor was forced to go into a temporary contract with Waste Management, a firm that had had this contract for over 35 years right here in an 85% black-owned city. We went back out again for the second RFP, and this time the African-American owned firm, Richards Disposal Services out of New Orleans, Louisiana, was the low bidder again. The mayor made the recommendation. The black council voted it down. Now, I don't want to cast this dispersion on Angelique Lee, who's always stood her ground and supported the African-American business community in every way that she could. And Brian Grizel, who has stood his ground and supported this mayor and this administration on their effort to bring some parity to contract disparity in the city of Jackson. I don't want to do that. But to Aaron Banks and Vernon Hartley, and my friend Kenny Stokes, who I had a conversation with today, I just got to say that you're wrong, on the wrong side of history. If black folks could be awarded a contract to pick up garbage collection in the Jackson, Mississippi, it will resonate throughout the entire country. We would have black folks saying, we can do it in Memphis, we can do it in Detroit, we can do it in DC, we can do it in Los Angeles, because blacks down in Mississippi are doing it. It was so significant. It's such a significant moment in history in this time that black folks in Mississippi need to lead. We need to say we are the light. We need to lead. Richards should be awarded the contract because he was recommended by the administration and he was the low performer, saving over $1 million a year. $12 million over 10 years. And our African American Council voted it down. I can't believe it. As an African American, when I walk into a room and there's a black man in the boxing ring and he's boxing a European or Chinese, it doesn't matter. My heart automatically pulls for the African American because I know his history. And I know his struggle, how he had to fight to get there. I don't know what's wrong with our children. Dr. Henderson, what do we do wrong with our children that cause them not to recognize the struggle that African Americans had just to get them in these positions?
Well, there's one thing that's very significant. We demonstrate from a position of weakness. We allow our black leaders, politicians, corporate leaders, and especially the religious leader, get away with anything they want to do. But in the 1960s, Henry Kirksey, Medgar Evers, Reverend R.T.L. Smith, and many others that had this problem with those leaders, the preachers and others that didn't want to participate in the boycotts when they were trying to get some economic parity and so-called integrate Jackson and other places throughout the country. They would call those guys and ladies aside because when they would do something wrong, go and buy stuff at these stores that they were boycotted, they would get their tag numbers. And since most blacks at that time, about 99.9%, were segregated from the white community, everyone in the area knew each other, and they would give them a visit and talk to them and say, why are you continuing to buy goods at this place? They are beating us to death, and you continue to buy. We can't get parity. We can't get any jobs unless you stop buying. and they would have a corrective action attempt with these people. And they gradually stopped. And when that money started getting to the point where the European Americans were not able to generate a profit, they called the people together and said, we're going to give you a job as a teller in this bank, as a cashier in this company. We're going to hire some of you people to put them in our management program and call them a management trainee. That's then when they start sharing that affirmative action. But they already had a plan that we're not going to let you get too far because you're going to replace us. So they started then getting what we call the people that were not qualified but looked good. And that's when they started using their own people. Those they would breed and had done it for 2 generations. If you look at the pictures of those black people that worked in these businesses in the early days, most of them were mulatto types. Same things in the colleges that were the presidents of these colleges, their major student bodies. The top leaders there were mulatto types, the relatives and grandchildren of the former European Americans that were running things. They gave it to their outside children, so to speak. And you have to call them up to an account. Up to an account.
If you're brown, stick around. If you're black.
I don't like to say that, but that was the historical narrative during that time.
Okay.
And if you were real black, you knew then you had no chance. Because you didn't even like yourself. You had to go and use that bleaching glow. You had to get your hair processed. You hated yourself. Black people hated themselves from slavery until about 1970. And many of them are reverting back to those same old suicidal principles where they're teaching it to the children. Look at all them boys and girls that are playing in these professional programs, wearing these buckwheat curls and all that kind of mess. They're not clean cut. They're looking like male/females. You don't know what they are. And the little boys and girls that I see every day wearing the same type hairdos, same type clothing, trying to be accepted. And the parents allow it. And that's another sign that black folks not going to be changing anytime soon unless you have a restructuring, a repurposing, and a reinvention and get the black folks back to the way they used to be prior to leaving Africa. You got to train them yourself. If you don't train your animals to make them into top performers, they will be weak and you have to shoot them. And that's exactly what they've been doing.
That may sound harsh to some out there, but we're in a crisis situation. Dr. Henderson says we have less than 9 years. We're already last in the pecking order in America behind every other ethnic group. Black folk are treated worse and have less ownership in this country than any other ethnic group. So we're on a downward spiral. So something harsh has to be done. Some corrective action has to be put in place that he talked about. We're going to have to challenge our leaders. We're going to have to challenge them in the polls, and we're going to have to bring complete transparency in our communities as to who's doing what. We're looking forward to the shadow government that we announced that's going to be launching at the end of this month, where we put community leaders in the seats of elected officials and see if they see things the same way. See if they see and can show that we should be doing things differently as a society. We look forward to finding solutions. Until next week, this is Socrates Garrett Live signing out. Good evening. I'm Socrates Garrett, and we're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi, the heart of the Deep South, right here in the African-American-owned broadcasting studio. We believe digital.com, our own platform. And so it's critically important that in the African American community, we control the narrative. I look forward to receiving opportunities to show and advertise your products for goods and services and to move your brand along in this community. We're broadcasting live on Facebook. On We Believe Digital Podcast, go to Roku and download our app, and We Believe Global, with shows like this to bring articulate, intelligent conversations and dialogue to our platform. So I'm here to continue sounding the alarm. This is how the South is going to rise again.
Do you have something to say? Do you want your voice heard? Join the We Believe Global lineup. Be the star of your own show. For more info, call 800-492-5186, option number 1, or visit online at webelieve.global.